Hello, everybody. Welcome to Daylight Gaming. I'm your host, Gavin. I'm here to talk to you guys about these new epic spoilers that just came out for the new set, Shadows of the Galaxy for Star Wars Unlimited. These cards seem pretty good, and I think there's going to be a lot new meta changes, a little bit of meta shifts here and there. I think upgrades are going to be a little good. You know what I'm saying? We'll get into it, though. But I'm just going to get right into it. Go ahead and start. The first card we have is the Mandalorian. When you play an upgrade, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, exhaust an enemy unit with 4 or less remaining HP. Interesting. Comes out at 6. It's a 4/7 and has the same ability as it has on its face up, but it's 6 or less instead. That's very interesting. So, looking at this leader right off the bat, it's giving control or mid-range vibes. I think more mid-range, if anything. I think the ability to be able to exhaust a unit every time you play an upgrade is really good. It gives all your upgrades on play. He has like a when played ability, which is when played abilities are usually fairly good. It kind of defeats the way I see it is like it breaks the rules of the game. Usually you play a unit, it comes in exhausted, but this gives you an upside to playing the card even after it becomes exhausted. Let me see here. Excuse me. So we're gonna go. I see it being. What upgrades do we have? I think it's gonna have to be. You're gonna have to be playing Cunning, Heroism, Vigilance for this deck, because I think Vigilance has the best upgrades. I think it's gonna be very hard to transition to any other color combo right now for the cards that we have actually in the game from the first set, because blue has some of the best upgrades. You got like Jedi lightsaber, Luke's lightsaber, Electro staff, all these really good upgrades that you want to be playing anyways, and then this just gives you the upside, and then also just lets you get to that mid-range, that long game. Play the long game. You're going to get up, you're going to start building these units up with these upgrades, and you're just going to start beating face. I just don't know how it's going to match up versus an aggro deck. I think it's going to be good. I think this really just gives Heroism a really good mid-range type deck. Because right now I feel like you have Han Solo, who's kind of good mid-range aggro. Leia's aggro, Sabine's aggro. Then you have Cassian, and then I always forget her name because she's so irrelevant. But yeah, so like I think this gives Cunning, Heroism a really good mid-range type deck to be able to be built and played. I want to move into the next card. We have Moff Gideon. Right now we're looking at Command Villainy. Interesting. He has an action ability. Attack with a unit with the cost 3 or less. If it's attacking a unit, it gets +1/+0 for this attack. Comes out on 5. The 3/6 Overwhelm, and it says each friendly unit that costs 3 or less gets +1/+0 and gains Overwhelm while attacking an enemy unit. Once again, same thing with Mandalorian. This is definitely a mid-range to control type list. I think that's how this is going to be built. I don't think you go aggro. I think you're just trying to trade up with the units you are playing in your mid-range to control. I think you play this in... You could go red and then play a lot of the Force units and get that benefit and just get those spells like, not Grand Inquisitor, but like the 5th and 7th sister and brother. I think blue also combos very well with this, going for that control matchup. I think it just gives I think it gives something that the villainy green decks, or the villainy green blue decks, just not what they're needing. Or not what they're needing, not that, but gives them what they need to kind of help deal with the aggro a little more. So I think this is going to be a top contender if you really want to play a really good control matchup. I think this will outshine the restore that the typical control villainy decks give, because just having the ability to take their units off the board instead of having to heal the damage their units are dealing, I think is a lot more beneficial than just healing the damage itself. But yeah, other than that, I think it's a pretty good card. I think it will see some play. I think it just gives a different outlook on life when it comes to that control matchup or that control deck that's going to be played. Well, the next one. We have Calculated Lethality. Defeat a non-leader unit that costs 3 or less for each upgrade that was on that unit. Give an experience token to a friendly unit. Costs 4. Looking at Vigilance. Villainy. I think there's just better cards. Now that being said, I don't know what exactly is being brought to the table with this new set. It looks like we're getting a lot of upgrade synergy, or at least the way Mando's looking, we're going to get a lot of new upgrades for all the colors, all the different types. I just don't know how good they'll be. I think this just gives a upside. I think you play this in a side. This is more of like a sideboard thing. If Mando does become a real relevant deck, you would have this in your sideboard. You probably still are gonna beat. If you can control the matchup, you're still gonna get there. Just this will have way more upside to dealing with those early game units than just getting rid of it, because if they have upgrades on them, you're gonna put the experience counters on your units, and it just lets you control the table even more because you're playing so little units, but now they're bigger. So overall, I don't think it's seeing much play other than sitting in a sideboard for that one specific matchup that might be a matchup that's actually good in the long future. Next card, we have Phase 3 Dark Trooper. We have a 3/3/3. Once again, we're looking at the command villainy as Sentinel. 3/3/3 with Sentinel. Doesn't that just that's just a cell block guard on just green instead of just villainy now. And it says when combat damage is dealt to this unit, give an experience token to this unit. Survives the damage. So I think we're playing a lot of green black anyways. If you're playing cell block guard, you're just playing this instead. Definitely just playing this card is just a significantly better looking cell block guard. In just having Sentinel and then being able to heal itself, it's gonna survive longer. If you're playing against a lot of low damage units, they have to swing in. He's going to get the health back, and it just lets you have your Sentinel unit last longer. So your cell block guard just is going to last longer than usual. So I think this is a phenomenal card. You're seeing a lot of green being one of the best colors played, either splashed and everything. I think this just gives it something else to make it better. So let's move on to the next one. We have Gideon's Light Cruiser, 8 Villainy, 7/8 Overwhelm. That's interesting. When played, if you control Moff Gideon as a leader or unit, okay, so we might be getting a unit of Moff Gideon. That'd be pretty cool. Play a Villainy unit that costs 3 or less from your hand or discard pile for free. So this just goes and gets us our new unit, the Phase 3 Trooper. I think that's what the synergy here is. It grabs other things. It grabs Boba Fett. It's a pretty good card. It grabs Boba. Grabs your cell block guard. I mean, you could grab your Viper droid if you just want to get more information on what's going on in your opponent's hand. I think overall this just gets your Sentinel back. Controls the ground unit if you play it that way, even with Boba. Grabbing Boba like that as well. And I think 7/8 Overwhelm is pretty good. But for 8, I don't know if this is going to see much play, because it's just so expensive, and we have so many other just, I think, better ships that either cost 1 or 2, or 1 less or 1 more, that significantly would just take this spot every single time. Move on to the next one. Let's see here. We have Grogu. So I'm super hyped about this card for multiple reasons. So let's just get over and talk about him. So he's a 2 Cunning and Heroism. He's a 0/5 Force unit. We all know what Force units do. And he has an action, exhaust an enemy unit. So I'm super hyped about this card because this will turn on a lot of different cards, a lot of different colors, especially in The Mandalorian. I think this is an instant include. You go, especially with I'm stuttering. Especially with upgrades. So right now, this really just brings me to think about the Jedi lightsaber. So if you can go turn 1, Grogu, turn 2, Jedi lightsaber, exhaust their turn 1, swing into Grogu, swing with Grogu at the exhausted unit. You now have a 3/8 on the board, while they have an exhausted unit. Just got attacked. Overall, I think that just whole synergy gameplay is phenomenal, and I think it's going to be good. And this is like one of the main reasons I think the Mandalorian deck's going to be amazing, is because we're getting a 2-drop force unit in the heroism colors. I know we had just the vigilance one. It says, was it like first upgrade you play on this character each turn, it costs 1 less. That's great, but other than that, if it just dies, it kind of did nothing. Grogu's not going to die if they take initiative first. So no matter what, you're definitely getting an upgrade. You just might not be able to capitalize on the action ability if they did take the initiative and you don't have an upgrade. If you're playing this deck, if you're playing this in the Mandalorian, you're more than likely going to have an upgrade. So, hot take. Go to the next one. We have the Razor Crest. We have Vigilance, Heroism, 4-drop, 3/4. Restore 2, and it says when played, you may return an upgrade from your discard pile to your hand. Let's just, overall, I think it's okay. I think 4 for a 3/4 is actually pretty crappy stats. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. Restore 2 is okay as well. I just think for 4, I mean, I get that on Yoda for 3. And it's a 2/4 just on the ground. It says I draw a card, but I mean, I think if you're playing on curve, I just like to talk about it because I know these are in the Mando starting decks. If you go turn 1 Grogu, turn 3, or turn 1 Grogu, turn 2 upgrade. Say somehow they kill Grogu, you play this on turn 2, you get your upgrade back, and you get a 3/4. I just don't think it's gonna see play. I think it's too clunky for a 4-drop. I think there's just way better 4-drops that you want to be playing. And I mean, it's nice that you get the upgrade back, but I think you'll be running so many that it really just won't matter on getting that 1 back. So move on to the next one. I believe we have Wanted. I'm super excited for this card. This card is bringing multiple things. Bringing multiple different things to the game. Let's just go over it. It's Wanted. It's 0 cunning. It's an upgrade. You're going to attach it to a unit. The unit gains bounty. Ready to... So, I keep trying to explain this card wrong. So, the unit gains bounty. Ready to friendly resources. So, when this unit is defeated or captured, its opponent collects the bounty. So, you're going to attach this to your enemy unit. And then you're going to kill the enemy unit, and it's going to allow you to ready up 2 different resources. So it's pretty much, the best way I see it is it's Boba's ability on a stick. You're just going to slap this on. If you can go, if you have the card, you can go, I keep bringing up these 3 cards because these are the new spoilers, but turn 1 Grogu, turn 2, and then let's say they claim initiative right away. You go bounty, do upgrade on Grogu, swing into the bounty, collect the bounty, play another upgrade. And now you're like sitting at like a ridiculous 9 something. Right? So like you can go Grogu, Jedi lightsaber, or Grogu bounty, Jedi lightsaber, get the 2 resources back. Then you play like Luke's lightsaber. Now you have like a 9/12. Are those numbers correct? Like a 9/11 card on the battlefield. That's on turn 2. That to me sounds ridiculous. Now it's pretty much like a god hand, but officially after that moment, you've pretty much controlled the game. I think that's the one game where you're going to see an instant win, but it also loses really hard to Vigilance because you're just going to see those cards that say defeat a unit or have your opponent defeat 1 unit or by their choice. I forgot the card. I think it's Vanquish. So it has its ups and it has its downs. Versus a controlling matchup, I think that's where Mando's going to struggle the worst. And when it comes along, I think it's a really hard mid-range deck. So it makes sense it's going to lose those control matchups. Next, we have the Mandalorian's Rifle. Oh, just stop. It costs 3. It's heroism. It says attached to a friendly non-vehicle unit. That's because it's an upgrade. And it says when played, if attached unit is the Mandalorian. Oh, it does say the Mandalorian. So it has to be the Mandalorian. It doesn't trigger off a regular Mandalorians like Sabine. It won't trigger. That's interesting. So you're not playing, if you are playing this, if you're playing the Mandalorian. If you are playing anything else, this deck should not be, this card shouldn't be in your deck. But it costs 3, it's a 3-0. That stat line is really bad. Just in general, especially when you're seeing like Luke's lightsaber for 3-1, but played on Luke, do something. Like that's way better. The only upside to this is it says he captures a exhausted enemy non-leader unit. So that's one of the new mechanics. It says it right there. Whenever you capture a unit, you put that card face down under the unit that captured him, and it won't go back into play until he's defeated. Now, I think that's super awesome. I think it's super cool idea for this game, especially. You're, like I said before, you're not playing this in anything other than the Mandalorian, unless there's a unit and there's some, like, it's really good and you're playing it and everything else. But you really, so I'm trying to think of where the synergy's at, but I think that's exactly it. So the Mandalorian would state, if you play it on the unit, right? The unit says whenever you play an upgrade, exhaust is 6 or less drop. So you play the Mandalorian's rifle. The Mandalorian will trigger. You exhaust the 6 drop. Then you capture the 6 drop. So for 3, you took out a 6 or less drop. I think that conversion rate's awesome, and maybe that's why it's only a 3-0. But I think it being a 3-0 really limits it played anywhere else other than the Mandalorian. I think that's why it's kind of an interesting card. But I think that's our last card out of the spoilers. So I'm going to simply get right to it. Let me know your guys' thoughts on all these new cards we went over today. How are your thoughts on the spoilers? Has spoiler season started for the new set? We don't know. This is the first cards we're seeing. We saw a little product leak a couple, I think it was like a week or 2 ago. So that was cool. That's how we knew what characters we were getting for the starter decks. These are the starter decks leaders. So super excited to see the rest of the contents of the decks. But other than that, I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and leave a comment if you really like these